Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mike Davey, for being on this call and giving us your time. So just a little brief something about Mike. Mike was a former mayor of Key Biscayne, which is right next to Miami and Miami Beach. So Mike knows good government starts with listening to the community and putting aside partisan battles to find common sense solutions. So he spent years dedicating himself to enhancing the quality of life of his constituents as he served in Key Biscayne. And he really focuses on what matters to his constituents and the people. So Mike now has decided to bring that same type of dedication and result-oriented leadership. And he'll be running next year in the primaries to capture the congressional seat for his district. And I hope you're successful in that, Mike, because my dealing with you is that, you seem like a very, very bright, dedicated man. And the current person holding that seat, besides being on the wrong side, not so much. So give it a go, please.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. Thank you to everybody for being here. As Josh said, my name is Mike Davey. I am the former mayor of Key Biscayne. As way of background, I'm originally from New York, born in Queens. Embarrassed that the first president to come out of Queens is the chucklehead in chief. But moved down to Florida about 22 years ago and moved to Key Biscayne, and it's been my home ever since. My family's here. We have 2 kids, and I want to defend this place. I want to make this the best community that it can be. I am a lawyer by training. Studied the Constitution and history. Studied the Constitution in college. So it's always been a passion of mine, and civil rights has always been of a great interest to me. I mean, it's so critical and it's so fundamental to any society and to the greatness of our country, equality. And yet here we are in 2025, and it's on the edge. And I was listening to Tracy, and I'm thinking, how did we get here? How do we get to the point where we have to instruct people on how to protest, to go out and gather? And talk about the issues that are concerning to them. When I was a kid, my mom had me out there marching for the Equal Rights Amendment. That was the first thing I ever did politically. And at the time, I really didn't understand until my mother explained that equal rights weren't always guaranteed to people, that women and African Americans and Hispanics, everybody has had to fight for equality with, all men are created equal. And we as a society, we as a country, we are an imperfect union, but we should be striving to be better, to include more people and make sure that everybody has a seat at the table and is heard. And we haven't done a good job of that, frankly, and we're getting worse. So I'll talk a little bit about how I got into politics, but I think the most important thing right now is that people stay active. Be engaged. I'm really happy that you all are talking about this and you're organizing, because grassroots movements are the way that this country has moved things. I mean, the revolution started because a bunch of people got tired of paying taxes without representation, right? They were tired of the tariffs that were imposed by King George III. And so they stood up and they banded together. They put their lives on the line to create a new nation. And we are the fortunate ones who have benefited from a lot of that, but we've also had to struggle with the problems that we've created as we've gone along. So I moved here in 2003. I owned a house, and I went out walking my dogs one day, and cars were whizzing down my street and there were no sidewalks. And I'm from New York, so I said, well, we should put sidewalks in. And so I went to the village. I said, hey, how do we get sidewalks on my street? And they said, oh, you can't have sidewalks. So why not? I said, well, it's just, we won't do that here. Nobody's getting sidewalks on the streets. So, well, what about speed bumps? Well, you need to get your neighbors all to sign off to allow the speed bumps, because nobody wants it in front of their house. I said, okay. So I went to my neighbors. I went up and down the street. I got a bunch of signatures. I got almost everybody on the street to sign off on putting speed bumps to reduce speed. I went back to the village. And they told me, oh, well, we don't have the money in the budget for this year or next year. I said, well, wait, now you're moving the goalposts. You told me to go get my neighbors. We organize. We all want this. And you're telling me you can't do this for us. So how do we raise the money? Well, you have to go to a budget hearing. So I went to a budget hearing and I argued for the speed bumps. I lost as a citizen, as a resident. And that's really what inspired me to start considering running, was just being told no. Because I'm not somebody, if you tell me no, I'm not going to take that if I think it's the wrong answer. So I ran for office in 2004. I lost. Out of 11 candidates, I came in 10th. So I wasn't dead last, but I was pretty darn close. But then I started working with the community. I started going to the meetings. I started meeting with different council members and the mayor. I started meeting with different residents who were concerned about what was going on in the community. And by doing that, by walking, by talking, when I ran again in 2006, there were 7 of us running, and I was the #1 vote getter. My community, I'm a gringo, as you can tell. I live in a community that is 68% Hispanic. Our district, Florida's 27th congressional district, is 74% Hispanic. And one of the things people have pushed back at me on is, well, you're not Hispanic, and I will stipulate to that. But you can't win in a Hispanic district, and I think that's nonsense. I live in a 75% Hispanic household. My wife's an immigrant from Peru. My children are Peruvian, and American Peruvian, Peruvian American. So the point is, we're people, right? And people, we all have similar wants and needs. We want life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We want an equal playing field. We want to feel safe in our communities. We want to feel that our individual liberties are protected by the government. And we're not seeing that. And to Josh's point, the person that I hope to be running against next year, I do have a primary opponent, but I hope to be running a woman by the name of Maria Elvira Salazar. You may or may not know that name. I think most of you know Marjorie Taylor Greene, and this is basically another version, a Hispanic, a Cuban American version of Marjorie Taylor Greene. She does whatever Trump wants her to do. She'll say whatever he wants her to say, and she will not represent this district. We are a district that has a lot of infrastructure needs. We're obviously heavily reliant on Biscayne Bay for our economy because of tourism, because of real estate. And the fact is, if you don't protect your waterways, they die. And if they die, our economy dies. But she voted against the infrastructure bill in 2023, and then tried to take credit for what money did actually flow here from the bill that was successfully passed. When she was challenged on voting against it in a TV interview that's very famous down here in South Florida, she said she couldn't remember how she voted on the largest spending bill in the history of the United States of America. And that was really the catalyst for me to say enough, enough. Because in local government, every official you have to be responsive to the people who put you in office and to the rest of the residents, to everybody. If somebody wants to have a town hall while you're in the supermarket, guess what? You're going to have a town hall and you're going to answer questions. You're going to talk to them about the tree canopy or why the sidewalks have cracks, because we do have sidewalks in some parts of the town, or why there are dogs on the beach, or whatever it is. And you as an elected, you have a responsibility to stand up and answer people when they ask questions. And right now, our district with Maria Elvira Salazar there does not have a representative who is representing the people. As most of you know, the immigration crisis right now, the attacks on migrants and immigrants, whether they're here in status or out of status, it's horrific. They're rounding people up. We've had that going on here on Key Biscayne, in Miami-Dade. We're hearing about people, United States citizens, being detained. And that's wrong. And the fact is, this woman, a Cuban American who's been talking for years about how much she wants to do for immigrants, has not stood up to Trump and this administration. When she had the opportunity, when the budget bill came up, she could have stood up and said, I'm not going to vote for it unless you allow people on temporary protected status or on humanitarian parole to remain in this country. She didn't do that. And she continues to just do whatever Donald Trump wants, which is really, we all know that's to help enrich himself and his friends. And he's done it to his backers. I mean, you look at what he does. The corporate tax cuts are extended. He's this crypto dinner he had a few weeks ago. It's all about self-enrichment. It's not about doing what's best for the American people, and it's got to stop. And it stops at the federal level. It stops if the House of Representatives does its job and stands up. It is a co-equal branch of government, the legislature, the House and the Senate, and it's got to do its job, and it's not doing it right now. So that's why I'm running. But that's enough about why I'm running. I really want to talk about the importance of local government, because we're all trying to figure out, especially now, people are trying to figure out what they can do, how they can impact. And we're all going to the rally. I'm going on Saturday with my daughter. We're going to be there, and we're going to be standing up and saying there are no kings, that we are a democracy and we're not going to let our democracy die. But what we can do on a consistent basis is we can be engaged. Each one of us has an obligation, has a duty, a civic duty to be engaged at the local level, to go to our meetings, whether you've got a town, where you've got a village, a parish, whatever it is. Go to those meetings, get engaged, get involved. You don't have to be at every meeting, but pay attention to what they're talking about, what they're doing. A recent issue that came up down here in Florida was the state of Florida, which is really the proving ground for Project 2025. The governor had the legislature pass a bill that required essentially local municipalities to partner with ICE and to assist in the roundup of immigrants. And there was a little bit in the beginning, there wasn't much pushback against it. Some cities and municipalities were just signing the agreements to join with ICE. But as people started understanding what was going to happen to the immigrants in their community, people started standing up at the local level. And so that in Key Biscayne, we were able to stop it. It wasn't me. It was just local people going to their council members and saying, hey, we don't need this in our community. And so the council has now, for the time being, put it on hold. And so there's a way for us to have a direct impact on our communities. And that impact here in Key Biscayne extends out into my county, extends out into my state, and extends out into the federal government. And the more, what you realize is your power, it's real. I mean, the organizing and the marching is important because it makes a statement. And having, I forget what the numbers, I think it's, if we have 11 million people, the 11 million people protesting at the same time, that's the catalyst for change in the country. I don't know why that's the number, but it's 1/3 of 1%, I think, of the population. Or 3% of the population. If 3% of the population is protesting, then we've got a real movement and we're going to move forward with change. But we can make that change at the local level. And I think for too long, Americans have stood by and taken democracy for granted. People will tend to know more about the third wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills and what the Kardashians are wearing than they do about who the people are who are making the laws that directly impact their lives on a day-to-day basis. And I would challenge everybody on this call to make sure you know who the people are in your township or wherever you live that are representing you. And make sure you know who is representing you at this county level and at the state level and at the federal level. Because you do have an obligation, you have a duty as a citizen of the United States to take part in the process. And it is the way we can take back power. We've allowed it for too long. We've allowed special interests and we've allowed these authoritarian wannabes to run things, to take up. And we've seen it, especially in Florida. They've taken the local seats, then they take the county seats, then they take the state seats. I mean, our state government is a supermajority Republican in both its House and its Senate, and the executive is also Ron DeSantis is a Republican, and it's untenable. It doesn't work. If there's only one party, democracy dies. If the other party has no power to make any change or to hold up anything, it goes away, and we are seeing it erode in front of us. So my message really to you all is get active in your local politics. Make it a priority. protests are important because we have to stand up to this time. Right now, we're in an emergent situation. We are, with the attack on Senator Padilla today, with the attacks on immigrants, with the indictment of Representative MacGyver. We are seeing just a direct attack on our democracy. They don't want elections in 2028. If we don't get the House back, if the Democrats don't take the House in 2026, I truly fear that we will not have a real presidential election in 2028. And it's not hyperbole anymore. We are seeing in real time what they are trying to do. They're trying to create fear. I mean, Tracy made a point, and I forget what it was. Oh, if you are not a U.S. citizen, you probably shouldn't protest. And she's right, unfortunately, that folks who are here on student visas or work visas or whatever it is probably shouldn't get in trouble because, yeah, they'll yank their papers as fast as they can. But what does that say about us as a country that that's where we are? That we have people living in fear. I know United States citizens, I have spoken to them personally, I've sat with them and had coffee. There are people who carry their passports when they go to the store now because they're afraid of being detained. In the United States of America in 2025, they're afraid of the police detaining them. Now, we all know that the police have had a challenging history in our country. We know that there have been problems, and now it's all coming to roost. The authoritarian impulses are being glorified. They're being magnified, and we've got a president right now who said about the protests, if anybody was in D.C., they were going to find out. Protesters, not rioters, protesters were going to find out. They were going to be treated roughly, I think is what he said. And it's unacceptable. And so we have to stand up, and it's great what we're doing on Saturday. I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm proud that, so many people are going to be out there, but we've got to get back to the basics. We've got to take back our local governments. We've got to take back our county and our state and our federal governments. And it starts, every person on this call, you're all the same as me. I was just a guy who was trying to walk his dogs without getting run over. And that's how I got involved. But we can all do this. I promise you, it's not magic. It's not, I tell people, politics is not complicated. It's hard work because sometimes you're working with people you do not want to have to work with. You don't want to compromise with some of these people, but you have to work to get things done for the people you serve. That's the most important thing you can do. So I implore you all. I say this all the time. I tell high school kids when I'm talking to them, get involved, get engaged. It can be daunting. I understand that first time you walk into a town hall, it can be a little daunting to get in there, but get the agenda. Find out what issues matter to you. It may be a speed, an increase in the speed on your street. It may be an increase in taxes. It may be a water quality issue. They want to get rid of sewers. They want to take away regulation of water quality, whatever it is, fertilizers, whatever it is. There are issues that are going to be important to you. Take part. It's your government. We all have to be a part of the government and make it work again. When we have less than 50% of the people turning out for elections, we're all losing. We're all losing because we're not getting the best we can for this country, for our communities. And so we got to work together. I really would like to hear from all of you about what you're doing. If you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. And that's how I want to.
We've got maybe five, maybe 10 minutes. I always try to respect times and
Sure.
keep the call to an hour. So we don't have a ton of time for questions, but we certainly have time for a handful. So if anybody wants to raise their hand and ask Mike a question.
Yeah, there was actually 2 questions that were submitted ahead of time.
Okay.
The first one is by Wendy Rust. Wendy, I have the written out question right here, but if you want to ask your question in person, by all means, raise your hand and you can ask it in person. Otherwise, I can read it out. No, Wendy?
She's here. She's on here, but you can move along to the next question or you can read it out loud.
I'll read it out loud. All right. So how would you succinctly explain to Republicans how different the immigration enforcement and detention policies and actions are from previous Democrat admins and Trump?
How would I succinctly? Well, it's chaotic, it's unjust in that it doesn't follow due process, and it's ineffective. I mean, they've debilitated our economy. They've created a huge fear. They've destroyed our reputation throughout the world. And it's wrong. You know, all these people purporting to be Christians or whatever religion they claim to follow, to be treating other human beings in the way they're treating these people. I mean, we sent a 2-year-old child with stage 4 cancer to either Honduras or Guatemala. This is a US citizen we sent out of this country. And how do you rationalize that? You know, oh, she wanted to go with the mother. There's no testimony on that. The mother had a 2-year-old child that was screaming, and as they were dragging her away, they gave her the child. It's wrong. It's a poor. The immigration system needs to be fixed, but there are opportunities to fix it. There was a bill put forward by one of the most conservative senators in the United States Senate, Jim Langford, that would have resolved a number of issues. Now, some Republicans claimed it didn't go far enough. Some Democrats didn't like how far it went, and it didn't take care of what they call dreamers. But it was a start. We've got to work together to solve these problems. Just their point in all of this has been the other is to blame. Trans people are to blame for your problems. Immigrants are to blame for your problems. Not really pointing out that the reason the economy is doing so poorly, the reason most Americans are suffering is because the government has not been looking out for most citizens for the past 40 years. I mean, the tax system is not fair. We are overburdening our middle class and our lower classes to the benefit of the corporations. And that's not acceptable. Everybody should be pulling their weight. Everybody should be paying a fair share. So I know it's a long-winded way. It's probably not as succinct as you would have wanted it, but their policies are bad. They're inhumane, and they're hurting the United States of America.
I'd like to
Thank
keep
you.
us to about 2 more minutes or 3 more
Sorry about
minutes,
that.
Jen. So I see Stu's
Yep.
hands up, and I know you have another one. So let's try to wrap it up in a couple minutes, please.
Stu, go for it.
Yeah, hi, Mike. Given how important the regaining power of the House is, 2 years, is it, or year and a half?
Year and a half.
And given the history of your congressional district being in her hands for so many years, what's different about your strategy this time around?
So I think the difference is immigration is, look, there are two things. There's the attack on immigrants in a community that is 74% Hispanic. And I think it's 60% foreign born, or maybe it's 55% foreign born. So everybody here has a connection to the immigrant community.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you that I've got people, and again, just so we're clear, I'm a former Republican. So I was in that world for a while, and I left when I saw the totalitarianism that was emerging with Donald Trump. But I think what's changed here is people are waking up. They're realizing that what Trump sold them was snake oil, and it's not working. And immigrants, the immigrant community, the Hispanic community is realizing that they're getting sold down the river, that it's not just criminals that are being deported. They want all Black and brown people out of this country. I mean, that's just it. I've been trying to tell people that for a while. I'm like, I'm the white guy. I understand what these people are thinking. Their motives are not pure. It's not about protecting you from criminals. It's about getting rid of anybody who doesn't look like them.
Mm.
And it's working. I mean, and now we're going to have the economy crushing small businesses and all, and it's coming. Unfortunately, the pain that this country is going to feel in the next 18 months is probably going to benefit me in the political sense, but it's going to be really bad for this country, and I wish it wasn't happening.
Any thoughts to reaching out to independents and disaffected Republicans?
That's a big part of our campaign, frankly, is trying to look. I'm going to go sit with people. I'm going to go to the ruby red parts of my district. I'm going to go into communities that voted overwhelmingly for Trump, and I'm going to sit with them. Because the reason they went to Trump, the reason they turned to him is, as I said, a lot of people feel like the government doesn't have any regard for them, that it ignores them. And they're not wrong in a lot of ways. Too many people run for office for the seat and not for the job. And we've got to change that. We've got to have more people go to Washington, go to the state houses and serve. It's a public service, and then you go home and you make your living. You don't make a career out of being a politician in Washington. It doesn't work. We've proven now that it's not working for the American people, and we've got to change that.
All right, so we have literally 1 minute, no more.
There is a question that was submitted by Alex Dabrowski. Alex, I know that you're on. I don't know if you want to ask your question, but I can read it if you'd like me to.
Please do. I think it was about violence.
Well, there's you submitted 3 actually, but there's one that is really interesting because I'm curious about this too. Should a constitutional convention be called to deal with the really big issues facing our collapsing democracy?
You know, it's interesting you brought that up, and I think one of the issues, you know, a constitutional convention, I don't know when the last one was that we had actually. I think it was in the 1890s maybe, or even earlier. But I think you're absolutely right about the power of the executive. I think it has gotten way too big and way too expansive. I mean, you know, the executive orders that come down now on everything. The fact is, you know, the Korean War and the Vietnam War were both police actions, right? There was no declaration of war by Congress. We need, first of all, you need a Congress that's going to rein in the executive, because the executive is supposed to carry out what the laws that have been voted on by the legislature. So yeah, I think we need to do something. We certainly can't just keep going the way we're going. I don't know if a constitutional convention, you know, I'm certainly willing to explore that, but we definitely need the legislature to come back and exert its authority in the coming years, because what we've seen is a reduction of its role, and that's not good for anybody.
All righty, well, I'm going to wrap it up.
Thank you.
Just out of respect to keep all our time. But Mike, I don't know, that was pretty powerful for me. So having said that, I just kind of want to wrap up with like the idea of being in action. Like, I hope that you all got something from the call tonight, and I hope that it was informative and inspiring. I hope you feel that there is a sense of community, because we do have a sense of community. And when we have our calls, all the feedback I get is they felt like they were with like-minded and like-kind people, and they were really happy to be part of a community and get some education, have some support, share some ideas, and mostly activate, feel like they can do something. And you can do something with us. I would ask you to please invite more people. Come back to our call. Every week, I promise you an interesting speaker. And please bring guests. Please invite your friends. I'm sure everybody here knows like-minded people and people that want to make a difference and are not happy. So please bring guests. Please come back. More so, if you feel like there's some room in your life and you have some time and you have the energy and you have the drive and you want to activate, whether it's just maybe getting involved in some content for our social media or website, or doing outreach and helping us gather more people, we have places. We are looking for a handful of people on our leadership team. The dozen people I've been working with, we're pretty exhausted, and we have lives and jobs, of course. So we do need some help. So if you have time and you are interested in helping, you can raise your hand, you can put your name in chat, you can reply, you can respond to the email you got, you can call the friend who invited you, however you'd like. But we need help, and the more help we get, the more support we have, and the resources we have, the more we effective we can be, and bigger difference we can make, and the larger our community will grow for each other. So having said that, also, if anybody happens to know a great guest speaker that they feel would be appropriate for the call, you know, please reach out. So lots of ways to get us, especially to our website or through whoever invited you. And so lastly, I just want to thank everybody again for really coming. And well, I'm going to keep this up. Our team's going to keep this up, and we're not going to stop. And so hopefully you'll step your game up too. And I really appreciate everybody coming.